This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, fantasy book fans? I am Steven from Fantology, your host on another exciting episode. This time we're going to be talking about a special debate topic, I should say. So myself and Ryan are going to be arguing one side, Ben and Josh on the other side. So since I'm talking first, we can introduce our side, right? So Ryan, are you ready to win this debate?
I am ready to not give in with my first statement like Josh always does.
Oh, be quiet. I did that once, and it was because I knew that they would turn the debate around on us.
Yeah, but it was the first time, so it it's going on in infamy, So,
all right.
Okay, best of luck to you guys then, since you have Josh, who is infamous for losing debates before they even start.
Okay, all right.
Ben, any words of introduction? Do you want to introduce our topic?
Yeah, so first of all, if you haven't listened to the previous episode where we talked about the top three aspect or like top three things in horror, then you should probably listen to that. But we're going to kind of continue on that theme and debate which is better at horror. Is it going to be sci-fi or fantasy? There's two kind of subgenres that we cover on this channel. And so which does horror better? So yeah, that's kind of what the premise of the debate is. And it's pretty loose. I mean, there's no real criteria to better, but
books, movies, TV shows, whatever goes.
Doesn't matter what format. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're ready to win. So Ryan and I are going to argue fantasy. Ben and Josh are going to take sci-fi. But before we get started, to start off exciting news from Fantology. We are starting a contest with a giveaway with real prizes to real winners. And Josh is going to explain more.
Okay, so to enter into this contest, you have to first be subscribed to our YouTube channel. This is a push to get us over the top to 1,000 subscribers. We'll let it go a little bit longer than 1,000 subscribers, but that's what this push is for. So in order to win, you have to be subscribed and then leave a comment. And each comment you leave, as long as they're not like spammy, like the comment has to be a legit comment, will get you an entrance into the contest.
Josh, could you give us an example of a legit comment, please?
Like say, you can say great podcast. That's fine, as long as you don't leave like 10 great podcast comments.
One per video.
You get one per video comment.
Yeah. One per video. That's a good idea. Okay, one per video. And also you can say like, good job on winning the debate, Ben and Josh, because we're going to win the debate here in a few minutes. That would be an example.
That's a bad comment. You're removed. You're removed from the competition.
And I'm going to throw it over to Ben, who's going to tell you the prize that you could potentially win.
Yeah. So we over at Fantology love audiobooks. I probably more than the rest of people here, because I find that I am only able to listen to books at this point in my life. So we have 3 Audible credits that are going to go out to 3 different people. And so the way that works is we have an Audible credit. You tell us what book you want to get from Audible. We use that credit and then we gift that book to you. So no strings attached. I guess if you want to be a decent human being, you'll stay subscribed even after you get the audiobook, but no strings attached. You get the book and it's yours.
If you don't have an Audible account, then we have links down below that you can sign up for Audible, and we will also get a little tiny kickback from that.
And I think that gives you one free book as well.
Yeah, that would give you one free book.
I mean, you could potentially, like, if you don't have Audible, you could potentially get 2 free audiobooks. And hey, possibilities are limitless there. So
just like fantasy.
Yeah, just like fantasy. Listen, and this is we've also decided that if we get more than 100 applicants, that we will bump it up to 5 distinct winners. So you at least have, I guess if it goes to like 1,000, people that we somehow get subscribed from this, then you have pretty low odds. But like more than likely, there's like a decent shot at winning an audiobook here. So definitely.
And just to clarify, this isn't for new subscribers. Like if you have previously subscribed to Fantology, that's great. just leave your comments to get entered in, and then as long as you are subscribed when we pull the winner, then you'll win. So
let's say we'll run this at least for a month, and we will evaluate at the end of the month. Like, do we think this is enough entrants? I mean, kind of bear with us, right? We're a smaller channel, so we want to make sure that everyone's getting a fair chance and there's enough entrants. We may extend like until the end of November, but it'll be at the end of a month, and we will update it on how that's going.
Yeah, and I think that we'll, like, whatever month we ended on, we'll probably do like some type of like drawing on one of our monthly episodes, so that you can see that there's no foul play going on with our choosing of So
it's like, oh, congratulations, congratulations, Steven, you have won. Who's that? Yes, that was me.
Well, Stephen Merrill, get your audiobook.
You know what? I will for sure be commenting. So I'm,
Ben's gonna gift an audiobook to himself. It's like, ha.
Listen, if the random number generator favors me, then I will. Who am I to deny that? So yeah, it should be fun. Go. So yeah, super easy. Subscribe and comment on our videos, and we'll just load all those into a spreadsheet, and it'll be good.
All right, that's Fantology news. On to news, couple news items for the rest of the fantasy landscape. We do like to do these little episodes with a brief, like, what happened in the previous month with science fiction fantasy. If you want a more detailed overview of like the news landscape, check out Daniel Green's channel. He does things in much more detail. But what interested you guys in the month of September? Maybe like upcoming stuff even, but let's keep it short, no more than 5 minutes or so here. Like, what's most notable?
And the biggest thing, and also the saddest thing, was the Matt Cawthon recast from the Wheel of Time TV show. And we don't have any more information on that. I mean, I think go tune into the typical Dusty, like the Dusty Wheel, I think has covered it a bit, and Wad Up has covered it a bit. And anyway, like, they all do really great coverage. We don't know anything. I think it's unfair to Matt Barney, who's the actor portraying him, to like do a lot of speculation. So we're not going to do that.
His first name is not Matt.
Yeah. Did I say Matt Barney?
Yeah, you did.
You did.
Oh, geez. Barney Harris. Anyway, so we're not going to speculate, but
I have a new speculation that he didn't want to get typecast into that role, as Josh just displayed with associating his first name as Matt already.
Okay. Well, I don't know. But that is hard to say that that's not going to be a hard thing for the series to overcome. There are a lot of series have changed casting before, but that is going to be world breaking for a lot of people, when they get that second season and it's a different actor. I'm hoping they both do a really good job portraying him, and I'm hoping that, it all works out well. And that's all I have to really say about it.
Yeah, it's hard to put a positive spin, right? Hard to put a positive spin on this one.
I think we're all hoping that they can use a certain plot element that happens in the books to kind of naturally make that transition a bit more seamless.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
there's definitely a thing that happens that could.
A different actor is a different actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, like, I am not in favor of that. I think it'd be too cheesy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I guess before we don't want to spend too much time on this, but like, how concerned are you guys? Like, does this, when the trailer came out, we were hype, right? Like 10 out of 10. We were so excited for the series. Trailer looked great. What's the level of concern after this?
Again, without going into too much speculation, I don't think it was because he thought he thought the production was really bad and didn't want his name associated with it anymore, and so he left. Like, you hear of that happening with different productions, and I don't think it was something like that. So I don't think it speaks to the overall quality of the show at all. So I'm not that concerned about it being indicative of the show. It's just kind of a sucky situation that, everyone will have to be like, oh, yep, that's a different actor. As long as they both do a good job with it, I don't think it's be a detrimental thing. Like Harry Potter, the movies are so special because the actors aged so well and like really like became
became their characters as they aged up. I don't know if the Wheel of Time needs to have that happen in order for it to be successful. Like there's such a rich history and like a
Really? Okay.
like it would be nice if that could happen with a few characters at least, but like I don't know, like
Harry Potter was,
I feel like
all about the characters. Wheel of Time is all about the world building, and the characters are important, and obviously like they're
yeah.
I don't know.
essential, but
The main characters though, like this is the crew that you've gone through all these books with, and now there's faces attached to them. I feel like I'm already kind of attached and like, okay, like this is how they look now on the TV screen.
Yeah, I think like I do agree with that. I mean, especially when they announced the cast and there was like all that drama, like, oh, there's like a diverse cast, and you know, there I feel like the productions team main comeback was like, hey, these were the best actors like for their positions. You know, we went with like who captured the character, and so like that hyped each and every cast member so much. So it is kind of sad, you know, because you're like, you know, this person was hyped so much, and all of us really agreed that just looking at him, he really captured Matt pretty well. So it's sad, but I think I'm still pretty hopeful. So I would say I was 9 out of 10 excited. Now I'm like 8.5. So
Ryan, your sadness level.
I'm kind of unattached to this whole Wheel of Time show. I mean, I'm excited for it, but
Okay.
I'm not. I've reined in my excitement for it. I'll watch it when it comes out.
How can you possibly do that? Like, tell me
How
how,
can
because
I-
I have no idea how to resist.
Well, I stay off of Twitter a lot, and when these conversations come up, I'm just a content fan. I'm excited to see where they take the show, and I'm not letting my expectations get out of control. I have other things to keep me busy.
It's like, I have a
think
life, Steven.
Ryan's like, this is like the perspective of like 99% of the people that will be watching the show. Actually, like 90% of the people watching the show will have never heard of Wheel of Time before. Like 9% probably are like exactly like Ryan, maybe read the books and like, this is pretty cool. And then like the rest of us are like the 1% of like, what? They're replacing the actor before the show even starts?
I
What's
feel
going
like
on?
Ben, you might have been the type of person where before you read the books, you would watch the first season, then you'd watch the second season, and then we would talk about how bummed we were that they changed actors for Matt. And you're like, they changed actors for Matt?
That's not wrong.
I
You're
just
not
got
wrong.
remembered my words right there.
Ben would be like, I just thought that he died and another character with the same name had the. Whew.
Dang, that was
good.
I
was
don't know.
gonna-
Some member of Fantology has to keep their expectations a little bit lower than the rest. So I'm trying to,
for people that
balance you
aren't
guys out.
steeped in Fantology lore or that don't know us that well, are gonna be like, why is that so funny? But it was a good one. It was a good one, Ryan.
I feel bad for picking on Ben so much. I'm
Well,
sorry,
you
Ben.
dissed me at the beginning of your comment there. So hit Josh and you'll have the trifecta in one comment.
Right. I was gonna ask though, are you gonna take the day off and go over it and watch it with Steven and Jake?
Yeah.
I'm not. No.
Come on, dude.
Oh.
I would totally do that if I was up
All
there.
right. We're gonna work on that. We're working on that.
Limited time off from work, and Wheel of Time is not my priority right now. I'm sorry, guys.
You can take Jude.
I'm sure Jude would love
Jude would love that.
Wheel of Time marathon.
It's only 3 episodes on the first day. Okay. Any other news? There were 2 books. We want to talk about 2 books briefly. One has already come out. We've covered it a lot. The other is coming out in November, but we're going to be reading the series through most of October. So which books am I thinking of? Read my mind.
Senlin Ascends is the first book by Josiah.
Books of
Bancroft.
Babel.
The Books of Babel. That's the name of the series.
That's the name of the series. We're going to be reading those 3 through October, and then book 4 is coming out to the beginning of November. Current and ready to hop on for an exciting new book release. We're already. Josh has finished the first book. I myself, and I think you two guys are kind of in the midst of the first book, and it's very fun, quirky. Like I liken it to Series of Unfortunates, but maybe like a little more on the not on the YA side. I'm liking it.
Douglas Adams. If you're for Douglas Adams, it's a lot like some of Douglas Adams' works combined with like Neil Gaiman. I think, in my opinion, at least, I really like it. I gave it like a 5. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. But I mean, I don't think that would be a 10 out of 10. But I think it's more a 5 star than a 4 star. So yeah, it's
a good series so far. I mean, it's not been a perfect read or top book of read of all time, but it's entertaining, and I think we've already gotten a few really big fans of this series. We announced on Twitter that we were doing this book club, reading the first book, and a few people have joined to talk about it. So lots of people like it, or the people who read it really like it and want to talk about it. And so I think that has to say something in and of itself of the series.
Yeah.
You know what I thought was crazy? And I know we should move on, but I posted this on Discord today. Like, the author of that series, Josiah, he like posted on Twitter saying like, oh, thanks to my wife, I've been able to like, pursue this career, and like she's really like financially supported the family as I've done this, and like take more of a hands-on role at home or whatever. I'm going to try and do this more full time. And so he's like having to set up a Patreon and stuff. So when that comes out, definitely go like contribute to that. But I just thought that was so crazy that like somebody with like a pretty successful, book series, like that's the reality of, trying to be an author right now.
Yeah. Right. It's honestly a little discouraging.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, so I just thought I'd bring that up. When he does set up the Patreon, we'll post about it like on Discord and Twitter, and let's go support authors, I guess.
Yeah, if there are authors that you like what they do, then buy their books.
I think I would definitely be willing to contribute to authors' Patreons more than I do. Like, especially for some of these lesser known authors that I really like their stuff, I would totally be willing to do a couple bucks a month. If I was an author, I would probably just start an OnlyFans on the side to get all that, all that extra business.
You reading books in your deep, sexy voice.
This is my sick voice.
Right. I'm convinced that you do have an OnlyFans account, and that it's just we need to go far enough to find it.
Yeah, the number.
Are you going to go into the deep web?
The number of times that Ryan has joked about an OnlyFans makes me think that he's trying to tell us something.
Look,
it's funny because your video game handle name would be a perfect OnlyFans name too, Ryan the Sasquatch.
Oh, that's not my video game handle is
Nacho.
Fiery
That would
Nacho.
also be a great OnlyFans.
I don't know about that one.
Oh boy. Okay. The other book I wanted to mention was The Wisdom of Crowds by Joe Abercrombie. I think for sake of time, check out the other stuff. I did a booktube video about it. We talked with Charles at Friends Talking Fantasy about it. Excellent book. We love The First Law. So if you are a fan, check those out. Hop on Discord. We have plenty of people wanting to talk about that series. But let's go forward into the debate now. The big feature, right?
Yeah.
The feature event. Here we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So who, Ryan?
What? I'm on your team.
You're on my side, right?
Yeah.
Got him on the ropes, Ben.
Yeah.
Team Fantasy.
Yeah, we already forgot about our teams. So Ryan and I, Steven and Ryan, are arguing Team Fantasy. Ben and Josh, the twins. So if you're listening, their voices may sound a little similar. So they'll do their best there. But they're on Sci-fi. So which team? That was not twinism. I am just trying to help our listeners out because I know it's a legit thing for people listening.
Yeah, for reference to like episode 5 of Only Murders in the Building.
Yep.
Very beginning of that episode.
A great show that is not related to science fiction or fantasy, but check that out. We're all addicted to it.
He was like trying to get
Yeah. All right,
Nice moderation.
which team wants to do their opening statement?
I'll go first. All right, listeners at home, I want you to think for a second. Think about like typical horrific things, and what comes to mind. In my opinion, like aliens come to mind. In my opinion, scary robots come to mind. Dinosaurs might come to mind.
Dinosaurs.
And finally, you do have a little bit more things like zombies.
Still within
And,
sci-fi though, sci-fi.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, for sure.
I don't know if zombies are sci-fi.
Okay, what always creates
every
sci-fi?
time zombies happen, it's because some scientific experiment went wrong.
Yeah,
Sci-fi.
almost every zombie story is going to be related to a science experiment gone wrong, or a virus escaping a lab, or something.
I think zombies borderline.
No,
Zombies are kind of what
they're
would you
not
say?
borderline.
What's
What
the
about
movie?
what about the Shenka in First Law? Those are basically zombies, right? That's not
But
sci-fi.
they're not zombies though.
No, they're not.
They
zombies.
basically are. It's the same idea. There are like things that are borderline zombies in fantasy.
You can say the undead or necromancers or something like that, but zombies.
Okay,
like,
we'll go zombies versus necromancy and undead. That's the
Yeah,
distinction.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough.
But
fair
so
enough.
I would say most things that you think of are going to be in the realm of science fiction. I would also say that most of the recent adaptions, or not even adaptions, but just most of the recent horror films and scary films in general are going to be based around science fiction. And I think that's because a lot of the themes that come from science fiction lend themselves more towards more of that horror aspect. So there's my
solid
opening
statement, Josh. You didn't lose it for us yet.
Thank you. I didn't lose it yet.
All
All
right.
All right, Ryan. We haven't won yet. Josh has done his opening statement. We haven't won yet.
Well, science fiction is certainly scary. It is limited by being based on science. Fantasy, on the other hand, is unlimited except by the human imagination.
Strong
And
words
anything you can imagine can be, or somebody else, people can imagine things that can be infinitely more terrifying than something you can imagine. Whereas science fiction is tied to science, technology, and maybe some people think zombies or related.
But
There's fantasy can encompass anything from trees being scary to people to monsters to ghosts. It basically you can't even think about all the things that fantasy encompasses. And I think by the very definition of limits, fantasy is, or science fiction is more limited than fantasy and thus less scary.
okay, so here's my rebuttal to that.
Ben was ready to go.
You are naturally more scared of things that are real that can hurt you, right? So like you can say, oh, like the set of fantasy things that are scary is limitless, but the thing is that set doesn't include real things that are included by sci-fi. For example, all like if you listen to our last episode, most of Steven's things were concepts that were rooted in sci-fi. And so that's what makes like sci-fi things inherently more terrifying, is that they're things that can actually come out and, you know, endanger not only yourself, but endanger humanity. You know, AI coming and taking over the world is like a feasible thing that could happen. You don't really get that with like Parshendi coming over and taking over the world. Like that's just never going to happen.
Okay, well that is like comparing apples to oranges, all right?
Yeah, Parshendi are not scary. They're not scary.
Parshendi aren't horror genre.
Okay. I'm just saying, you know, like your limitless stuff, like while that's true in concept, like it's not true in practice, because like the things that are actually scary are covered in our sci-fi realm.
But fantasy is not necessarily only things that can't actually happen, right? Like we have spiders, which are real and people are scared of. And now in fantasy, we make them giant and now we're even more scared of them because they're huge. And so while giant spiders do not actually exist in reality, people can be even more scared of them because now they're huge in fantasy. And I think there are fantastical ideas like some kind of symbiote taking over someone, right? And now this is kind of a scary thing because even though it's not possible, like I don't know, next time you look at something like, is that guy being controlled by Yerk from Animorphs? Like it's fantasy, but it's also kind of possible.
That's okay. That's fair. That's fair. I would argue that most of the things you just listed could also be classified as sci-fi too. I mean, you could have a genetically engineered spider that was scary, but I'll give it to you. Harry Potter is definitely
fair.
sci-fi.
Yeah,
Or
the line
definitely-
the line is tough. The line is tough.
Yeah.
What about The Witcher? I was kind of thinking of the Witcher. That's certainly fantasy. The very beginning, he's fighting this giant spider thing. There's a name for it, basically a giant spider, and he just fights a bunch of demons. Yeah,
I guess spiders are more typified in fantasy. I mean, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Witcher.
Yeah,
are the three I can think of.
You guys, I have
point for giant spiders.
I have another point that will put Ben and Josh in the ground, aka dead, aka R.I.P. Ben and Josh, aka Scary. All right. I looked up the top 10 scariest horror movies ever on Rotten Tomatoes. And this is not somebody's opinion. This is fact.
This is Rotten Tomatoes.
This is Rotten Tomatoes.
We know that Rotten
everybody acknowledges
Tomatoes always, yes.
When you go, somebody says, "Oh, I want to go see this movie." They're like, "Oh, well, what does Rotten Tomatoes say about that movie?"
Mm-hmm.
That's for if you're an uncultured person. That's what you say.
Here's what they
Everybody
say.
Everybody else would say, "What does Fantology say about this movie?" All right.
And Fantology goes with Rotten Tomatoes. Okay.
The top 10 scariest horror movies ever are It, fantasy. All right. Insidious, fantasy. Sinister, fantasy. Halloween, fantasy. The Ring, fantasy. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, fantasy. Shining, fantasy. Conjuring, fantasy. Hereditary, fantasy. Exorcist, fantasy.
Hereditary, that's very sci-fi theme.
I don't even know what how is
Hereditary is fantasy.
Look at that. Literally everything. Not all. They listed top 10. We're all fantasy.
There's some in there.
I don't even know how you come back from that.
I would say the slasher things like Halloween, that's more, I would say that more falls kind of within sci-fi because it's grounded in more realism. And I wouldn't say that that's more like, there's a lot of horror movies like that I'm surprised aren't on there, like Silence of the Lambs, which I don't know if that would be more
Josh,
like sci-fi.
Are you
fantasy
on the editorial staff of Rotten Tomatoes?
Look, here's the thing. I feel like
that's a good point, Ryan. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Here's the thing, though. I feel like the genres that we're talking about, it's like, what are things that are made possible through either a sci-fi element or like a magical element? And like not very many of the things that you listed on there like fell into either. They were just made possible by some screwed up person.
Well, I would say paranormal things like Hereditary and Sinister and those type of things would be more under fantasy. But I think if you're going to give paranormal to fantasy, you have to give like Texas Chainsaw Massacre would be more like sci-fi because
all right,
that's not,
we'll give you Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Josh. So where does the score stand on that top 10 list?
9-1.
Thank you, Steve.
That is, good job bringing in outside resources, Ryan. I appreciate that. I applaud that.
Mm-hmm. I think that was a gamble. That could have. Darn. Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. That was a good.
I'm just gonna say them. The movies that still like haunt me, and these are like from watching when I was a kid, are like all the space movies that came out like in the like early to mid 2000s, like of just like the thought of like getting like sucked into like this vacuum and dying. That like still terrifies me.
Can you name any of them?
I think this probably comes from the Magic School Bus episode where Arnold gets sucked out of the space.
Arnold
spaceship.
So now
dies?
Josh is using
No, he
now
just
Josh
gets
is
a black
using
hole.
Magic School Bus as evidence for his
Sci-fi.
horror. Sci-fi horror.
You never saw that one? Arnold gets like out of. He gets
I don't remember that one.
stranded on.
I just remember the one where they like go inside of Ralphie's blood or something, or Carlos or whoever that was.
I remember that one too, and I didn't even watch much of that.
Okay.
I'll give you the. I mean, movies like The Fourth Kind. That was a scary one. That's sci-fi for sure. That's some alien stuff. I guess
Steven, whose team are you on?
Yeah, I don't know.
Helping them out.
Yeah, we're just demolishing them so badly. We got to help them out. When I think of things that scare me, and again, this is subjective. This is my scary things. I usually think of things that I feel like could be possible. Like I'm generally not afraid of monsters, but I'm also really scared of paranormal type of belief that like could maybe be possible. Like maybe that comes down to like a little bit of a religious belief. Like I think that kind of stuff like could happen and is really freaky. So if we're taking paranormal, then that's a big leg up for fantasy.
Yeah. I definitely hand you paranormal. But the thing is, like your like dark forest, fear that we talked about in the last episode, that's definitely sci-fi related.
Yeah, that's true.
Any type of like alien invasion. Definitely.
I feel like there's types of horror. Like there's the type of horror that's like the scary jump scare that's going to keep me up at night because I've got, my mind can't like stop racing and I'm just terrified. And then there's the type of horror that like kind of sits with you and there's like, oh crap, like this could happen. Like,
yeah,
but
it's kind of like conceptual horror.
Yeah. And that's more on the sci-fi side, I would say.
But a lot of times they don't even need to show a monster because your imagination will make something more horrifying. And I feel like that is, fantasy. You're not constrained by some other man-made element. It's just the sheer horror of your imagination.
Do you guys 45% of Americans believe that ghosts and demons exist?
I'm not a particularly strong believer in like paranormal things, but that being said, if somebody's like, oh, this hotel is incredibly haunted and there's plenty of sightings, would you want to stay here? I'd be like, no, I don't want to stay there. I just want to stay in like some typical 4-star resort where I can go to a jacuzzi when I want to, and I don't want to have to deal with seeing
roll the dice.
Yeah,
as we know, jacuzzis are not haunted.
Paranormal experience. They're not. I mean, if there was a haunted jacuzzi, I would stay away.
But they stay away. They can be time machines, which is a point to sci-fi. Thank you very much.
You're right. Hot tub time machine. Point to scary sci-fi.
Classic horror.
So far,
maybe
sci-fi's got Magic School Bus and Hot Tub Time Machine.
All right. Closing argument. Sci-fi, can you redeem yourself?
I think Ben's original point of science fiction being rooted in reality is a very good point. Like a lot of these things can and will actually, I would argue will happen unless like humanity makes course corrections. I would say we are on like the road to very technology creating like existential crisis things for humanity, where we can like destroy ourselves, like actually wipe out humanity from like the science that we've created, whether that be like viruses, or whether that be nuclear bombs or AI or just like all of these things. And we didn't, I think that as I get older, a lot of those existential things are made like rooted in kind of science fiction. And those kind of scare me as the older I get, like the thought experiments of like, what if this is really all a simulation? What if
Neil Tyson is convinced that we're just in a simulation right now?
Yeah.
So
I mean, like you just have a lot of these things that I don't know if I think that they started out being science fiction concepts like the Matrix or whatever that have made their way into like general philosophy, and I think can cause like existential dread. I've like felt that, and that sticks with me more than like a jump scare from like from a paranormal movie.
Plus, don't forget that we have zombies. So
yeah,
That's
it's a good comeback for the sci-fi team.
all right. That was my closing argument. So
let's
Ben made that point earlier, but I don't think he like drove it home well enough. So
thanks, Josh.
you gotta nail that down, man.
You were distracted by Ryan's Trumpian strategist, like throwing crap out there and claiming it supported our argument.
And my ad hominem attacks. You're stupid, therefore you're wrong. All right, I'll let Steven do our closing arguments.
I don't know if I have anything in addition to say, but I'll say at this point in my life, I am still more scared by the things that I think could come in and like rip my head off than I am by these more like existential problems. And maybe that's like, I don't know, maybe that's some kind of maturity level thing, or there's like some point in your life where you get like, man, I'm not as afraid of Samara climbing out of the well and killing me as I am of humans killing ourselves. And apparently I have not gotten to that point. So I guess once again, maybe I'm just a wimp, but I feel like come to some compromise in these debates where like, listen, okay, your side can win if this, our side can win if this. Maybe I'm just too nice.
I feel like the compromise is just to tell everybody, hey, go read one of each and then decide. There's some great, we've given suggestions. I guess go see our last episode, but Ryan brought up the Hyperion contest. I think that's definitely some good sci-fi right there. And there's a ton of Breach of Peace by Daniel Green is a great fantasy book if you want to go read that. So
Stephen King,
that's pretty scary.
Yeah,
we've got Stephen King on the fantasy side.
Yeah. So just go read and decide for yourselves.
Okay, well, thank you for tuning in. Let us know on Discord. Sci-fi or fantasy. What's scarier? You can join the community in the episode description. And what else? If you wanna read along with the Books of Babel, also on Discord, please join us there. Anything else exciting going on? Yeah.
Tell friends about us. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we're at like 970 right now. So I think we'll have some incentives coming down the line.